My name is Bruce. These are my hands. Well, you see one. And with me is the ever lovely Miss Janet from another planet.
Hello. Thank you
How
for
are you?
showing up.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Excellent. Today we're going to review the 1979 Carl Reiner movie
hmm
Jerk with Steve Martin and Bernadette Peters, and a host of other fantastic actors and actresses. I haven't seen this movie in over 30 years, and it still holds up.
Yeah, I thought they did a really, really good job at uh, making it realistic.
Yeah,
I don't know how old Steve Martin was when he started
Mark.
this movie, but this was his first major role in any movie. And he was so good at playing someone that was so naive. Even though he was older and his hair was already gray, but he was already white because a lot of people's hair turn white when they're young. And he just did a good job at playing a very naive man whose life experiences happened as he lived life, and he talked about it. And that's the whole thing is narrated by him from the very beginning and how he started off as a poor black child.
That that is
So
a definite
it was
description.
so good. I just loved it. I thought it was a very good comedy, and it to me it isn't racist at all. It doesn't have a bit of racism in it. I don't think,
I didn't see any in
except
there.
for the guy. They did dub out some stuff in the one we watched today from the guy that was trying to kill him, the guy that had the nervous breakdown,
Yeah, the Emmett Walsh.
the shooter. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and some of the epitaphs that he was yelling when he was shooting at him at the gas station were not too they toned that down.
yeah.
But
I thought I'd seen some rougher version on broadcast television about 30 years ago, and
yeah,
that's kind of sad how soft our society has become. I had a real discussion about that earlier this week, race in America, and I'm like, it's consonants and vowels. It means nothing. It doesn't mean you have the authority to burn down a Kenosha Wendy's. And
no,
he's like, "Oh, that you're a racist." Okay, fine, whatever. Hey, Cracking Gamer joins us as well, sir. How you doing? Um, it. I lived in Peoria. I lived in the real estate where freaking Richard Pryor was at for many years,
mhm.
and I got a chance to be the token white guy in a neighborhood. So I understand what Steve Martin kind of went through there to a degree. I wasn't raised by a loving black family, but I did see a lot of like just families being families. And since 2006, when that happened, uh, Jeremy's right. The race relations in America have gone completely fucking backwards, and
Yeah,
it's we're at a point where if you guys want to continue this, we can continue this. This is a bad plan. This is a bad route for us, but we can reverse this decision. We can choose to be unified and unity and accept our differences and go forth from there. I think that would be the way we did it from the 60s on into the 2000s. It's strange how we had the first half white president in 2009, and he's completely destroyed race relations in this country.
yeah, because just like I said, I didn't have a normal childhood because I was raised on Air Force bases, so I didn't really get to visualize like you would have in the city if you lived anywhere like in Illinois near Chicago or a big city where there might be a lot more of gangs and have the different things like that going on. Uh, there was lots of black, Hispanic, Asian, white people that I went to school with on all the bases and stuff. The thing is that everyone was treated the same. I never heard anyone call another person name. I heard like, look at all the pimples she has, or look how fat they are, or they got a gimpy leg, or things like that. That's the kind of things that I heard growing up. People making fun of other people, which still heard. I mean, they're always bullies, but I never really heard anyone saying. I mean, I had black friends, I had Hispanic friends. I mean, I had guy friends, girlfriends, redhead friends. I just had lots of friends that were all shapes and sizes, and I just never looked at anyone and didn't want to be their friend because of the way their skin tone or something. So when people would, I'd watch comedy shows and stand-up comedians, and they made fun of everybody, everyone got made fun of. So it was all fair and even. Is from me growing up, at least that's how I saw it. It wasn't until I was an adult and I started going different places that I started noticing that, some people, but it was more aimed at me because I was in a town, like when we went to Zion, Illinois, okay, outside of where we were for the reasons why we were there. And, I got called different names because I was white when I'd go like pick up my sister from her job at Kmart and things in Zion. So just little things. That's when I noticed it. And I was like, wow, I wonder why they don't like me. I didn't do anything. I just had a hard time understanding it. Now, I never got assaulted or attacked. I've never been robbed. I've been very lucky to be in that part. But this movie, to me, doesn't portray that. It does poke fun at the fact that he was raised, he's white, and he was raised with Black people. But he seemed like a loving son. He was writing letters and sending money. He seemed like they raised him really well. He had good manners. It didn't portray him as like a thug or anything like that. That's who raised him. So, I just thought I had a good point of view on how sweet they were when they're sitting on the porch and he's talking about, getting to use his special purpose and stuff, just little things like that. It was an innocent quality that he was able to portray. And so was the grandma who's reading the letters. She was so adorable getting to read it in a manner that wasn't, comedy. It was like she was really reading a letter from her little grandson and how happy she was and how proud of him she was. Those little things like that. And then when the parents would just giggle and laugh, things like that. It was just funny. I just thought they did a great job. And anyone who's not a racist, I guess you could say, that would watch this would think it was funny too, I think.
I think that's the same takeaway from this. This movie just has entertained audiences for well over 40 years.
Yeah.
And it's
hard to believe. It doesn't seem possible. That's how long it's been.
Holds up so well.
Mm-hmm.
It holds up very well. And this movie just, you don't hear a whole lot of people talk about it now. But when you look at like comedy movie lists from 5 or 10 years ago, this movie is always mentioned. It's always mentioned. And it's just a neat little tidbit, just a testament that people that enjoy comedy movies, where the comedy is genuinely funny, where their entertainment is the entertainment of the audience is primarily the goal. This movie's always on that list somewhere. It may be towards, like out of 100 movies, this is number 99. This movie still is on a lot of top comedy lists. So it's held up very well through the years. And the only problem I had today was the blurted out language from Emmett Walsh, which I'm not a person that likes to hear N-bombs or all that. You've heard me drop them during live streams, I'm sure. I don't give a shit if you get offended. Whenever I say it, it's for a reason. Take it in context, you idiot. And that's just kind of how I feel most people say. I mean, that's the majority of it. And like the one big N-bomb, it really never was meant to be a dig on somebody who had a melanin count. It was more aimed at the fact that their Father's Day was a confusing day. And like the celebration of which, and that was the original problem, because there were many times back whenever you had people talk about racism in the South. Yes, in the South, you had a lot of situations where plantation owners would take advantage of the slaves, and they would just kind of just run a train, or they, the house staff or cousins would come over and just, oh, you have a slave? Well, she's kind of hot. I'm going to take it. And they would do that. That's terrible, but that is historically accurate. That's what happened. And America.
What I remember when I would go visit my grandfather, and he had a little farm, and he had 2 ponds, and he had horses and cows. And I remember, helping him, and I would turn the little crank on his, I guess it was called an auger, and he would shoe horses, and people would bring their horses. And I remember going to get in the reins and bringing the horse to him, things like that. I can't remember how old I was, but I just remember how much fun I had being out there with my grandpa and getting to do stuff for him, getting them nails for the shoes, and just different things. I just loved doing it. And I had my little cowboy boots, and he would take us. It was so cute because he would take me and my sister shopping to buy pants. Like when we first get there, he'd take us to I guess the co-op or whatever to buy jeans, because we would be playing out in the yard, and he was worried that we would get cut up and stuff because he had a lot of barbed wire and stuff. So he'd buy us these really thick jeans, and we could barely bend our legs because they were so, you could stand them up by the wall. I mean, when you first bought them, I don't even know what brand they were, but they were really stiff. So I remember walking in them, and you walk like a cowpoke. And so my mom used to say, you guys are walking like cowpokes, because you waddled because you couldn't hardly bend your legs. But little things like that. And I just adored being with my grandparents. But their house had black tar paper on the outside with nails, big round nails. And that's what their walls look like outside. And I don't remember ever thinking anything about them being poor or anything until somebody said, you live with those poor people or something like that. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, we saw their house. They don't even have siding on their house. And I was like, yeah, they do. It's black. And they went, yeah, that's tar paper or something. And then I remember going back home at my grandpa's before we went to bed. And I remember looking at it, and I was like, what's wrong with it? I just didn't, it just went over my head. I didn't really understand it. But I remember, I just remember people being mean and bullying us because my grandparents didn't have a lot of money. So it wasn't because of skin color. And there was a lot of people that were there that were black that made fun of us too, because they're like, their dad was a doctor, in town, stuff like that. So it was like, I never thought of it as being anything but being bullies. But, I don't know, that was in the South. So
I think it all stems from envy.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just saying, I missed out on it. And I'm not saying I don't believe in racism, because I know that there is, because I've seen it. I've seen many, many documentaries and many, many things, and I think it's horrible. And I wish we'd never done that. But as growing up in our movies and in our, there were so many stand-up comedians and singers and actors that were black. And I didn't see way more white famous singers or anything than I did black ones. So I just didn't see that it was that lopsided or whatever. But I was just a kid, and I didn't really pay attention to who was rich, everyone that had money, whatever. I just didn't pay attention to that. But I just didn't see anything in this movie that pointed to it being basically a racist movie or anything like that. So I never heard anybody say anything about it being a racist movie or anything like that about it. Everyone I talked to that I remember all said, oh my God, the movie was so funny. And they always bring up a scene, a certain part of the movie that they thought was funny. And when we watched it this time, I totally forgot about Patty, his first love.
I think she bullied him into taking, letting her strangle his penis with her vagina.
Well, yeah, basically, because he was like a little kid. It was like taking somebody, a totally innocent person, and that's why when she just paid attention to him as like, he's somebody I haven't had yet. She hadn't conquested him, but she was a bully. So as long as he was the only one, he didn't notice there was anything wrong. And it wasn't until Bernadette Peters' character, Marie, came into the story that he realized that, wow, this is a real person, a real woman. And I like her, he had different feelings. It wasn't just playing with a special purpose. This actually had other feelings that came along with it, because he wanted to kiss her and be with her, talk to her, and share his feelings with her. And that was a young love that was blooming. And I think that Bernadette Peters, in a way, her character, and she did such a good job too at portraying someone that had an innocent quality about her, about a simple way of living her life and not taking no crap. You know what I mean? I thought they worked excellent together. I
Well,
think that
they
they're
had an actual relationship that lasted for like 4 years.
for real. I
This
didn't
movie,
look that up, so I
this
didn't know
movie
that,
was
but they were
written
adorable.
while they were a couple.
Uh-huh.
This was written and performed when they were first starting their relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and this there's a lot of people in this movie that became quite a force in the 80s. Hell, one of the Gottlieb men played one of the mobsters in this movie. He ended up being a assistant director, but he was uncredited for one of my favorite comedies of all time, Caveman, and he played one of the mobsters in this movie. But there's so many people in this film that from here they use it as a springboard. Steve Martin and Carl Reiner made 3 more films together. All of Me, The Man with Two Brains, and something else, but they did 4 films together, Carl Reiner and him. And The Man with Two Brains is actually probably my favorite Martin film of all time, just for the fact that when I was a young kid, Kathleen Turner was probably the most beautiful woman in all of Hollywood at
Yeah.
the time living. And I've never, like, gentlemen, men of culture, you understand what I say, back burner girlfriend in your mind, right? There you go. Like, Kathleen Turner's always there.
Well, I just thought it was great. The whole progression of the characters throughout the movie, starting off as innocents, and poor and simple and humble, right? They had all those qualities. And he learned as he went along. And he was so lucky because his boss at the gas station was so nice to him and talked to him in a decent tone and was, he knew he was not all there, if you know what I mean. But he didn't really take advantage of him or, mistreat him. Even the gentleman in the gas station that he couldn't get his glasses to stay up, so he made him something to help him, right? Out of the kindness of his heart. He wasn't expecting anything ever in his life, and he'd even forgotten about him until years later when the guy showed up and had lots of money to give him, and he thought it was a check for $250. I just thought that whole thing was so cute, and to see him go to the bank and to see the guy, the way he's treating him, at the bank and everything, it just was believable for his character to act that way and to be treated that way. But the guy that was wanting to kill him, that whole thing, having him pursue him throughout the movie in different sections, it reminded me a lot of the other movie that we watched, The Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
Because remember, you had Carrie Fisher wanting to kill him too, John Belushi's character. So you had that same thing with the cat and mouse, where you didn't know where they were going to show up one day with a gun and try to blow their brains out. And it made it comical because you can't do that today. You cannot use anybody with bombs or guns or anything, staking somebody out and wanting to take them out. You know what I mean? So just little things like that, I just thought was just really funny. And I laughed, and I didn't feel guilty for laughing about it.
This guy is Jackie Mason.
Yeah,
this is Jackie Mason, and he's one of the best Jewish comics. I call him a Jewish comic. It's the same thing as being a good comic, but he would always bring his experiences and identity, and he would always make it to where he would spin it into comedy. The only time you'd hear the man talk and he wasn't being funny whenever he was in defense of Israel because of all the stupid attacks on it from non-Israel persons in the Middle East. And I'm just going to say non-Israeli fan persons, because there's, for some odd reason, no matter what country you are, if you're in the Middle East, you don't like Israel. Like, it's just a mental deficiency of that fucking area. I don't fucking understand it. I'm not going to get into it. But this guy, very good comic, always brought a good spin to his comedy. One of the best. And it's so sad. I mean, we do have him, he lasted all the way till 21. The man was in his 90s when he passed.
Yeah.
So if you want to go hunt for good comedy and you don't have if you got a few hours to burn, Jackie Mason, go look his shit up on YouTube. You'll laugh your dick off. It's
Yeah, he is.
fucking
He is
excellent.
really, really funny.
And,
The whole
and
thing, that whole scene where the guy is shooting the cans and you see the little bullet holes appear. And he's
what's wrong
looking
with these
around. He's
cans?
looking around. It was just really funny. And his reaction when he realized that there's a nut job in the woods, shooting at them to hide, and he was trying to hide, and Steve Martin's running around, and then everywhere he'd go, there'd be cans, and you'd think it was the cans the guy was wanting to kill or shoot or whatever. And then he got to the car, and you see you can hear the bling, 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 the bullets hitting the trunk of the car. And then it was just funny. The whole scene was just really funny, even though we shouldn't have been laughing because somebody was trying to kill him, but it was funny. I mean, and Steve Martin was just really, really good at making you laugh, even though it was an intense scene where we should be going, "Oh my God, hide," scream or whatever, but we couldn't help but laugh at him because he was funny. And then he's like, he's trying to put a hole in you, not in the cans. And he was like, "Oh, I'm putting you in danger." He's thinking of someone else. He's not really a jerk. So the whole movie, you're thinking, well, who's the jerk? Why is he a jerk? He's super nice. He's super friendly. He's generous. He's kind. He bends over backward for everyone. Even the restaurant scene when they're rich and they go to eat, and he brings her out the escargot, which I love, but it is expensive. So, and then when he says, "Don't look down," because her food's covered with snails, I just thought, who thinks of stuff like that? And then I realized it was Steve Martin was one of the writers of this whole script.
Yeah.
And then he starred in it. So Steve Martin, he was in a band. He played music. He could act. He was very talented in all aspects, I think, of his life. He just seemed very well-rounded, and he was dabbling in lots of different things. And he was very successful at it. And he was good at it. It wasn't like, I've heard his band play, and I thought they were really good for the type of music they did. And I thought he was a great actor and a funny as hell stand-up comedian. I had seen him. I think I saw him. I don't know. I saw him do something where he was doing the King Tut on a show or something. I can't remember what show it was, but that's the first time I saw him. And I think he'd already made this movie. Do what?
There was a King Tut reference in this movie.
I'm trying to remember when that was.
He's got all the money, and they're showing all the stuff that he's got now that he's a rich man. They have a King Tut reference in the film.
Oh, okay. Well, I must have just missed it again.
I never missed it the first time.
So, but he's just so talented, and Bernadette Peters is very talented because I've seen her in lots of other movies too. But for her to balance out his character by his naive, he's so naive about everything, and he looks at everything in awe, and it was just a cute. I mean, it was so adorable. And I have met people that were very naive, but it was they were simple people, what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And but he wasn't I don't think he was. Maybe he was a simple person. Maybe that's part of the reasons why he was, in the situation he was in, because he was simple and he had a hard time understanding things. So he had to have it simplified for him to have it explained to him. And then you have the beautiful, beautiful woman that could have any man if she could ever want, because she was just breathtakingly gorgeous. And the fact that she looked at him with like she wanted to take care of him, she wanted to be one of those people. She was like a motherly woman, but she loved him, because she even when they lost all their money, she said, it's not the money, it's just the stuff, the things they had gotten used to. But I could tell that she loved him, from the very beginning, like when he says, trying to ask her on a date and he couldn't get the words to come out. That whole scene was just adorable, I thought.
For yes.
Do what?
Stump twice for yes. That was so fucking hilarious.
I know. I heard you laughing at a lot of the different scenes about how he was reacting in the whole thing. I just thought he was just I thought they were great. I thought they played so well off each other. I can't believe if they did date. I wonder what happened, because they seemed like such a good couple. But I guess he really wasn't that, that simple. So that made it really hard for the relationship later on, because he was really probably very aggressive or something. I don't know.
He was a very topical comedian of his time. I've read his book Cruel Shoes, which is really just a collection of skits that he never took to stage, or if he did, when they came to stage, they didn't hit, so he put them in a book and they hit funnier. But
Yeah.
I remember Steve Martin being one of the top of his day, and everybody loved watching him on Saturday Night Live. Oh, too wild and crazy guy, just he was fun, and
Yeah.
this movie kind of set a tone. Like there's the Omega Wolves of the 1970s, the Gen Xers that weren't the best jock, they weren't the smartest prep, they weren't born with a silver spoon in their mouth. At least we could be funny, like the guy in The Jerk. We could be our own Navin Johnson, and we could try our own wacky way to find our own beautiful maiden to rescue us from our life of idiocy and like just wanting to have all the gaudy pimp mobile shit that you think, when I get a lot of money, I'm gonna have the longest feather for this ugly hat.
Yeah, their whole character arcs too were very believable, and from the very beginning, where he's just dirt poor basically. They live in a little shack, right? His whole family, but they had lots of love. Like when his birthday party and he gets a can of Tab.
Perfect family.
Yeah, so they were just adorable family, and I remember growing up knowing people like that. When I'd go visit my grandparents, and we get to stay in the summer, because my dad would be gone, and my mom would say, "Okay, we're gonna go see your parents," and she would go see her cousins and stuff like that, and we'd go horseback riding, and Grandpa would plant different things for us to pick so we could understand how to snap peas and dig taters and do all that stuff. And I thought it was fun. Other people had to do it, and they said, well, I hate working in the garden, but we didn't have to do it. We didn't have to do it to eat. We just did it because it was cool to be at our grandparents' house. And then he would plow and everything using his horses. And it was just very interesting and fun. And, but they weren't rich. So, that's how they did things. It looks like we're on our way back to that stuff, the simpler life, where you can afford to take care of yourself if you have the right tools. But the character arc, as they go, time goes on. Remember, even when he had nothing, he was sending them money, even if it was 50 cents. He was mailing money back to them. So all the money that he was mailing, they were, saving up. They were saving the money. So as you can find out at the very end of the movie. But they get rich, because the guy that he had made the glasses grabber thing to hold his glasses up, keep him from slipping down his nose. He went and he started a business with it. Okay. And he became a millionaire basically overnight. So when he found him and gave him that check for $250 million, when he thought it was $250, he was instantly rich. And then they had a house, but they had a butler and a maid, because they thought a butler and a maid meant they were rich, right? See, they were still simple, even though they lived in a little house. He had a butler and a maid that took care of them. Okay, and it was so funny, the whole thing with the butler and the maid, where he's like, liking the maid, the butler is, and then his wife dies, and he's standing looking out the window.
Yeah.
At her service, it just little stupid stuff like that, slapstick comedy stuff, which was tacky but funny. You couldn't help but laugh, and then it was a guilty pleasure almost. This movie was a lot like that. I just remember you can't see stuff like this anymore. They don't make this because it is, I guess, because you can't make fun of anyone anymore. You can't make fun of anything. You can't laugh at anything.
It's not even they can't make fun of it. It's the fact that you can't even say something. Like, when was the last time you heard? Remember, I'm going to take you back to 1990 to 2000. You used to hear something on the radio all the time. A mind is a terrible thing to taste.
Yeah.
Please support the American Negro College Fund. When was the last time you heard an advert for the American Negro College Fund? we are running away from ideas.
Mhm.
We are running towards emotion. That's our substitution for critical thinking.
Yeah.
And because of that, I actually feel that comedy is going to make a comeback, just like Sydney Sweeney, God bless her and her two giant lungs. She's going to bring back sexiness for these little Zoomers. She's going to be one of the leading ladies that's going to help, make men realize what your hard dick's for. Because you're going to look at that and be like, holy fuck, I have not made a child today. I need to do that. And that's exactly what happens when a man sees a beautiful woman. He's like, yeah, I want my child feeding off those. You think that's just fucking common fucking that you're biologically driven to do this. That's why
Yeah.
men are so
I
stupid.
thought,
On
and
some
I also
aspects.
thought that the things that they brought into this story, which was basically reality, like you win the lottery, right? It's basically what happened to them. They won the lottery,
Yeah.
and you end up living an extravagant lifestyle that you don't really need to live simply because you didn't have money. You've never had money before, and now you got to have the fancy car and the chauffeur, and you got to have the fancy house where the ceilings are so high. It's just dumbness. It's just, to me, it's a waste of money. And you have to have 25 bedrooms and 15 bathrooms. All this extravagance. To me, that's where a lot of people lose all their money, is because they waste it on stupid shit. Because you think other people like you more simply because you got a freaking 15 bathrooms. I mean, I don't know. I've met a lot of rich people, and most of them live modestly. I mean, they just live in a normal house. Maybe it's got 6 bedrooms and a pool, and they go play golf, and they have 2 nice cars or something like that. But they're not living in this giant mansion that looks like it's a Taj Mahal or something. To me, that's just way overboard. But that's what these people do. These two buy this giant mansion, and they're living extravagantly, like you saw when he goes, and they're out there on the tennis court, and he goes up to the 2 jugs that look like water jugs, and they got wine in them and stuff. And he's serving himself, and every single glass has to have a little paper umbrella in it, because to him, growing up, when you see it in a magazine, only rich people had that. Poor people never got to have that in their drink. So he always had to have that, because that made him feel special, because he is be somebody. Remember when he told that ad up, stuff like that. And then you had the other aspect of, as soon as he's rich, he says that there's people at the door, the butler, and they bring him in. And did you know that was him? That was Steve Martin?
No.
His name was Pig Eye Jackson or whatever, the cat juggler guy. That was in the video. You have to go back and watch it, because it's him. He's dressed up, and he's the cat juggler. So when you get to see the video he's showing them, because it's just stupidity. I mean, it had no reality at all in it. But that's basically what you get. When you win the lottery, I mean, you are just bombarded with scammers out the wazoo, with every single racket you could think of, and if they do it now, you have scammers out the wazoo. Anyone that's over 60 years old, you're a target. They're gonna try to say, look at this, and you need a new roof, or you need this. Just write us a check for $1,000 today. We'll get the supplies, and we'll get back with you. And then they leave, and you never see them again. They just took your $1,000, and they just go right down the street and take rip off every person they can. It's usually the elderly that they're able to scam. And that's another thing that I liked about this, is that it pointed all that stuff out. Okay. It pointed out the carny lifestyle, that everybody would talk about. And, as he was going out to see the world, whatever, I just thought it was great. I just thought, and it looked like they were able to do a lot with probably a small budget. So I don't know if this movie had a big budget or not. Do you know?
$4 million for this.
$4 million. Okay. Well, see,
yeah.
I thought they did a good job, considering how little amount of money they had. But him losing, or finding out what his special purpose was all about and what it was for. Like he said, I plan on doing it all the time in the letter that he wrote to his family. I just thought it was hilarious. every time, and the family sits around and listens while she reads the letters out and stuff. I just thought it was great. The concept of it was just traditional comedy, that you just don't see. You just do not see that anymore. I would be nice though if they could bring back a lot of this slapstick comedy with a touching little story, with a little bit of romance, a little bit of action, and a lot of laughs, and believable characters in it, to where you just want to like them, you want to love them. And they had a couple bad guys in it, which was Patty, the biker chick, and the nutcase guy that was trying to shoot him. And then later on, he comes back and now he's a PI. So, I just thought it was great. And the character arc going, from being poor, they get to be multi-millionaires or whatever, and then they go back to being dirt poor again. So, but it shows that even though they lost it all, they still loved each other, and they didn't care that neither one of them had money. I just thought all that was just great. And I thought those two actors did perfection at showing that, the way it went. And the fact that you had this petite little lady, that he met, and then Patty comes up and says she's going to shove her bike up her ass. She just punches her lights out. I just thought that was great. It was a great scene. Huh?
One smack too.
Yeah.
Patty goes
one
down
good punch. Because most bullies are wimps. I mean, they really are. I took out a bully once, all by myself, because I just got fed up. I got fed up of this person, picking on me all the time. And I finally just turned around and I smacked him on top of the head. And he was a big guy, and he never picked on me again. And then later on, it was like 3 years later, he asked me to the prom. So I guess I proved my point. But the thing is that you just gotta, most bullies are wimps. That's why they have a little gang around them, because they're not going to be able to handle it when you fight back, stand up to them. But I thought she was cute as a bug. I thought she was great. And the little dog, Shithead, the dog.
Shithead.
Shithead was so cute.
Shithead. Okay, so Shithead, on day one of filming, or day one of Steve Martin getting to know this dog, he dropped like a glove or mitten on its head. So the dog didn't have like a good opinion of Steve Martin. And so
really?
every time you went and reached for the dog would cower.
Oh.
And they had to do a few takes here and there. And like, there's a scene where Steve Martin's trying to drag the dog along on the leash, and the dog isn't acting. The dog doesn't want to go with Steve fucking Martin, Yeah. And then there's another scene where the dog is growling at Steve Martin, and the dog's not acting there. It's actually like, I don't like you.
Yeah, when he was trying to take him, he says, all I need is this paddle ball and the stapler and this remote control.
Everything he saw he needed, because he was at the bottom of
his pants are around his ankles.
I think I hit bottom is the absolute. I think that's my entire. What do you call it? My subtitle for the biography I'd write if I did an autobiography. I haven't hit bottom yet. I can still fuck up more. I think that is a great context for this movie, because like he keeps going further down after he starts his slide, and he has to be rescued out of it. She finds him with his family, and they take him back to the life of love that he knew before, where they had everything they needed. They had a nicer house. They rebuilt it. It was still in a ramshackle location, and it's still a house built on block and pier, but it's a nice house, and it's going to have plenty of love in it. He's going to be welcome there. She's welcome there. Nobody had a problem with him. And, they mentioned to him, like, you really aren't a poor black child. We found you on the doorstep. And it didn't affect how they treated him. They still gave him love and respect. And he's going to have that, he's been there. He's seen the top of the mountain, and now he's back. He's got a campsite. He's going to be good. I don't think he's going to reach anymore, because I think he saw the error of his ways. Because a lot of people I know, whenever they get money for the first time, myself included, buy everything. My best friend from Illinois, never been to Texas before. Let's spend $3,000 in San Antonio in a week and see how that feels. felt like I was a millionaire. But after he left, I mean, he's a good friend of mine, but we need to be responsible, because like I could have paid bills with that. I could have paid my car off with that. And instead I wasted it on tequila and buying him a hooker for his I'm sorry you got divorced party and that sort of thing, because that's what friends do for each other. But when you're money laden and you've not had money before, you need a mentor to help you figure out what your wallet can do, because if you don't have somebody there, you're going to buy video games and fucking a stupid big ass truck with a lift kit, or a fucking super fast car that you have no business driving and paying $400 a month in insurance. You're going to have all these stupid things that you will learn your lesson when the repo man comes. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of oil field guys, my oil field audience is hearing me right now going, yeah, I fucked that up. And every one of us has, because we have to learn somehow. Most of us learn by experience, which means we get the fun and suffering. But after you've had that experience, you can do it again. You're not barred from making money again. You have to go about it a different way, because if you repeat the same mistakes, you're not going to learn. You're going to just waste your money all over again. And I think Steve Martin's character is gentle enough with himself to be like, I don't need a 5 foot long feather out of my hat anymore. I can live in this wonderful house with my beautiful wife, played by my now girlfriend Bernadette Peters. I can be happy till the end credits. So I can do that. And I think he was happy. I think his character was supremely happy. And I love how this movie ends. I love how it began. The entire film, from start to finish, there's just a few things I didn't like, and mainly it's the censorship of the version we watch. But I think that's the studio's a studio that censored a lot of that, because Emmett Walsh was not friendly in his first encounter with Steve Martin.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie that I laughed and laughed and laughed over was the scene in the bathtub. When he's in the bathtub, when Bernadette Peters is leaving him, she wrote the note, and she's heartbroken because she loves him. It's just that she knows that he's never going to achieve anything. He's not going to give her what she wants in her future, and she's going to have to, she has to leave him. And Shithead's on the bed, and she writes the message and stuff, and he's singing, and he's in the bathroom, and he's talking about who's the luckiest man in the world, that thing, and who's the luckiest woman, you are, that kind of thing. It was just adorable. Oh my God, I just loved it. And then he's like, come and get in the bath with me, and the dog jumps in. And then he starts talking about the letter, because he's listening to the dog and he can understand what the dog's saying. And then he opens the letter and he's reading it, and he's like, because the words are all smearing because he got it wet, right? It's just funny as shit. And, the whole thing was written, and I could tell some of the scenes, it was almost like watching Steve Martin do his stand-up routine. Because I went and watched a couple of him, and that's what he did. And the whole scene with him, when he would say something about, I don't need anything, because he'd get mad because when people wouldn't laugh at him or do stuff with his stand-up, he would say, well, I don't need anything. And he'd act like he's going to leave the stage, that type of thing. So basically, that's what he did. It was like he was ad-libbing. So he would just walk along and grab shit and say, he didn't need anything but this. So I don't need anything but this. And he's carrying all this shit down the street, a chair and everything, with his pants around his ankles, right? Because it was funny and people would laugh. So basically, he used props, but he did it in a manner that other people hadn't done. And that's what made him so funny. But I wanted to read this part. I thought it was really good. It says the principal photography took 45 days using 85 locations in Los Angeles and on $4.6 million budget. And this included Muhammad Fosse's mansion in Beverly Hills, the Pasadena, Westlake, and Village, and the Devonshires or something Downs in Northridge. So that's where they filmed a bunch of places. And it says, and he said Reiner ran a joyful set. So he said the cast and the crew ate lunch together every day. And the favorite part of the film, he said, was this Peter singing the song "Tonight You Belong to Me," and he talks about that. I guess it's because they were dating at the time, or they were married, or they were a couple, basically.
They were a couple.
So it was there was a lot of personal stuff, and he said he wrote the scene, the part for Marie, with her in mind, with her person. So she must be a lot like the character that she portrayed in the movie if he wrote it specifically for her, because there must have been things about her that's what attracted him to her, because of her gentleness and her caring attributes that attracted him to write this character for her. So I thought that was very affectionate when I was reading about that one little thing that I was able to find about their relationship. And I just thought that was sweet. But the fact that Reiner wanted everyone to have that close-knit relationship, that he wanted the actors to eat lunch and hang out with all the workers, that it adds a very personal quality, because that shows, just like what have I said so many times in movies, that if the director works with everyone and tries to make everyone like the movie as much as they love it, that the movie's going to be better, because everybody wants to be successful, all the way down to the boom operator, the caterer, the crafty guy. Every single part is important to make the movie be successful. And if everybody feels needed and wanted, that they're going to do a better job. You're not going to have a bunch of bickering and assholes in the bathroom talking behind each other's back and stuff like that. And the way that he ran this set apparently is what made it more exciting and fun to work on. And I think that's I guarantee if you could see the outtakes or whatever of this, that it would be really funny, especially the scenes with his black folk family, sitting around and reading the notes. I guarantee there were some good laughs going on in those rooms, because they're all surrounded by all the people working. You got the light people, and you got all the sound people, and you have the makeup people, and then you have the props people there, and you got all the little wires and stuff, just lights and wires everywhere. There's a lot of people on set that you never see. So I just guarantee that would be I'd love to see the reels on this movie, because I guarantee you'll laugh your butt off.
I bet. I'd be willing to bet. I have nothing negative to say about this film. Is it the funniest movie I've ever seen? No, not by a long shot. Is it funny? Absolutely. Is it must watch? Absolutely. This is a Carl Reiner classic.
Yes, definitely.
It's a testament to his wonderful comedic mindset of how he can take just actors and he can make something so fun. There was a movie he did with Steve Martin. Oh, I'm pulling up his IMDb, so just give me a moment here. It is a Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, and it's a kind of a gumshoe-ish type of comedy.
Oh yeah.
It's very hilarious, and it's just one of those rare films that when you watch it, there's just so much cleverness in it between the director and the main cast. Of course, Steve Martin's a lead, but it's just such a clever film. When you're watching it, you're like, how did this movie not get made until 1982? Because there's so much in there that it really does harken back from an earlier era. Whereas The Jerk goes for the slob comedy, which was the king of the late 70s, early 80s. I mean, for fuck's sake, we've got The Jerk, we've got Caddyshack, we've got Stripes. We have some amazing shows. Blues Brothers, Animal Lampoon's Vacation, National Lampoon's Vacation. We've got the
you got the Three Amigos,
Animal House. Three Amigos is like not a movie I want to watch.
No, I know, but that's another movie that was it made a lot of money, didn't it?
Back then.
Yeah, it was Chevy Chase. I'm trying to remember the other two. The other actor that was in the Martin Short.
Martin Short and Steve Martin.
Yeah,
that movie was supposed to have John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd in it.
but it was
Steve
funny.
Martin.
I remember my mom watching it and laughing every single time that she would put that tape in there and watch that movie. She would roll laughing and tears were coming down her face because she just loved Martin Short. I mean, she thought Martin Short was just funny as heck. And she really didn't like Chevy Chase that much for some reason. She said, I don't know what it is about him. I just can't get into him. She just didn't think he was very funny, but she liked the other two actors, and she said that they played well off each other, and she thought the movie storyline was really funny. So, that was one she really liked, the Steve Martin movie.
I wish I could say nice things about Three Amigos. I that's just one of those comedies.
Have you seen it already?
I saw it when it came out.
Yeah.
And it
was funny. I didn't think it was the funniest movie either, but I thought it was funny.
It's just one of those films that I can have it on in the background and I'm not going to get ugly or violent. But if I see something else on, like, oh my God, we're missing the Walking Dead or insert some other miserable fucking TV show, I'll turn that on instead because I look at this. I look at the Three Amigos the same way I look at Blues Brothers 2000. Like
I never saw that one.
Both of those movies are only viewable in the context of this is what happens when you take a John Belushi movie without John Belushi.
Yeah.
And like you might as well have like James Belushi in both of those movies. James Belushi could be just as funny as Chevy Chase in Three Amigos, and I would gain nothing. I mean, I fucking hate that character because it's not Dan Aykroyd, and that's who it was written for. But when Belushi went out, Dan Aykroyd's like, "Nah, I'm not going to be in it. Appreciate it, but I'll make my money another way. I don't need to be reminded of the fact that my friend's dead because he loved drugs more than the rest of us."
Yeah.
And that, that's just kind of how I view it. I know that sounds like a bummer, but I don't. I think I've seen maybe 4 or 5 Chevy Chase films in my life, and I'm pretty okay with that. I don't need to go exploring the rest of them. There might be some actual good comedy bits in those movies, but I generally find Chevy Chase about as fun as a warm glass of water on a hot summer day. That's absolutely.
What movies was he in? Because I can't really think of anything that I really thought he was great in.
And Fletch Lives are the only 2 movies that I really say probably succeeded.
Never seen Fletch.
I'm not going to put you through it, okay? Because it's Chevy Chase.
But I've never seen that one. So, was he like a private investigator or something?
Yes.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, he's I believe he's a spy.
I remember one movie he was in, and I saw some of it. And one of the scenes was he was possessed or something, and she had poured voodoo powder around the bed or something, and he went around on his hands and knees and snorted it all up, and his hair was sticking straight up, and he had white all over his face and his mouth. And I remember that, but I don't remember the name of the movie. I just remember that scene from a movie that he was in.
With anybody else, that could be really funny. But Chevy Chase is in it, and I'm not saying I'm a fucking icon of comedy, but yeah. I think I could be. You could put me in some sort of like computer app program, and you could put my face over all Chevy Chase performances, and you would have the same. You'd have the same amount of measurable laughter. Yeah. There would not be. You would not have anything that you would be missing, and I don't mean to sound like such a fucking downer on Chase, but like the only movie that I think he benefited was Caddyshack because of the problems he had with Bill Murray.
And that's right. That's the one. That's the one movie that I remember that he was funny in.
Yeah, because he was actually trying to be a comedian and he couldn't really outperform Bill Murray, but there was a scene where they did it together where Chevy Chase golfed off of fucking Bill Murray's snack food. And in the movie, it's actually pretty damn funny to watch that. And then knowing the history of those two, they can't fucking stand each other. Like that even makes it more understandable. Because
weren't they on a show together, a TV series or something? Chevy Chase was in.
I'll Google that. Good,
he's back. So am
Hey,
I.
Papa Doc, how you doing? Sorry to hear you're back on YouTube, but glad to hear that life is good for you. Chevy Chase.
I'm happy you're back on. We got to fight together. Try to.
Okay. So they were. I just banged Bill Murray and Chevy Chase, and the first thing that pops up is Bill Murray and Chevy Chase had a backstage brawl at Saturday Night Live, and it took years for them to make up. And so it was between them, and it was the inaugural season in 1975. And they had Chase's signature pratfalls every week with his miserable delivery. And they say good luck. So I got to share this because just so you guys realize I'm not being a complete and total dick when I read this article. There's good looks. He was a focus of media and attention with New Yorker magazine, the heir apparent of Johnny Carson, and December cover story. So this resentment was sparked among the other not ready for primetime players, including John Belushi, and that was compounded by Chase's prickly personality, his quick put downs often coming across as mean-spirited, and perception that the rush of fame was going to his head. So after he won a pair of Emmys in May of '76, he set about securing a new contract with NBC. He negotiates his way out of an SNL together, catching producer Lorne Michaels by surprise, came back for a couple shows in the fall, and then he vanished off for the promise of primetime bullshit in greener pastures of Hollywood. It's greener because of all the heavy shit in there. A few months later, Murray made the SNL debut, and unlike the man he replaced, the audiences were cold to the act, particularly after he flubbed a few lines in early shows. Reportedly in danger of being fired, he resorted to an awkward solo sketch in which he made a fundraising type of plea for people to begin laughing at his jokes, which was funny. He found his footing, beginning with Goofy Nick the Lounge Singer, and by the third season, he was tight with Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, Gilda Radner, and everybody else. So Chase goes back in '78, and according to Doug Hill, Jeff Weingrad, the actor, quickly realized he'd been stepping into an environment that was poison against him. He does little to rebuild any goodwill, bossing people around, and get back to his old Weekend Update segment from his current host, Jane Curtin. So the drug use in studio is rampant, and Chase admits he overdid things out of the misery he was enduring. Piles of cocaine up a man's nose. Murray, who'd known Chase since they worked at National Lampoon together a few years earlier, was eager to channel resentment to a climax. And late in the week, he brashly addressed the elephant in the room by telling Chevy, everybody hates him. This ignites a shouting match with tension continuing through dress rehearsal. Murray zeroes in on Chase's well-known martial discord with Jacqueline Carlin, telling him, go fuck your wife. She needs it. And Chase, in turn, notes that Murray's pockmarked face looks like a landing spot for Neil Armstrong. And before the show is going into air, Chase confronts Murray in Belushi's dressing room and challenges him to a fight. So they get into it. And Belushi gets between the two men, and he gets most of the punishment as the fists are going at each other. They're pulled apart. Chase takes to the stage to deliver a monologue, which wasn't funny. The clueless audience doesn't even realize what's going on. He later claimed he's not even rattled by the fight. Ex-castmates reportedly noticed a clear difference in normally cocksure demeanor, but yet he's still humble. And that was the highest ratings for SNL that week for that season. So they bury the hatchet during the shooting of Caddyshack. They still hate each other, but they fucking decide to pay their rent anyway and make a decent fucking movie. So that's the Bill Murray Chevy Chaseism that you might be thinking of.
If they had gotten in a fist fight, who do you think would have won?
I think Chase. I think Chevy Chase. He's tall. He's
tall. Bill Murray's tall too. I don't know. I think Bill Murray might have won.
I would like to say Bill Murray, but I think Chevy Chase, because Chevy Chase has more mass to him. Bill Murray is kind of a slightly built dude. He's not known for his physique. And Chevy Chase is known to be tall. He could have been broad-shouldered in his younger years. If he would have spent his life differently, he would have actually had something, to like not be a dad bod so much.
Yeah.
But that's just my own personal opinion. He was a complete dad bod.
No,
he lived it up.
The Thermos song. Oh.
Yeah, the Thermos song.
They were so cute. Now, see, you guys are going to think I'm a psycho, but see, if I had a guy and he treated me like they acted together at home. It wouldn't have to be in front of other people. I would love that. I could play on that.
Most
That would
women
be
would.
fun. And laugh every day. I would love to have somebody I could laugh every day with, and go just walking hand in hand and just do simple things. No money. Don't need money to do those things, to make each other laugh, and just, I don't know, just be there for each other. I think that's important. I wish more people could do that in their relationships.
I completely agree. I'd like to think that all relationships could get through their rough times by just like, can we have a fucking laugh? Because I don't need tension. Like,
Because you think about it, all these couples, like my grandparents, okay, that were together, they didn't have hardly nothing, but they laughed a lot. They talked a lot. And I remember my grandpa walking by, and my grandma was real little, because I remember by the time I was 12, I was taller than my grandma. Okay, because she was just short. She had long black hair because her mother was a pureblood Choctaw Indian. So she had beautiful long black hair down her back, but she was like really, really built like Mae West, but a little bigger. Okay, because she'd already had kids and everything. She was a grandma. She was a really good cook, and she was just a doll. And he would walk by and he'd smack her on the butt, stuff like that. I just remember playful things that my grandpa did with my grandmother, because we were left with them. My mom would drop us off and she'd go visit her relatives, other relatives, cousins and stuff. I guess, to get rid of your kids with your parents like everybody does. And we would just hang out with grandpa, and he would tie us up, Sandy and I up, two of us, and tie our wrists together and our ankles and hang us on the doorknob. I remember that because he was into wrestling. So he'd sit and he'd teach us wrestling moves off TV. And, so he was a great grandpa. I mean, he was awesome with us. He would do so much stuff. He'd wrestle with us and make us do chores, but it didn't seem like chores. It was fun. We'd raked and we hoed things, and I don't know. I was so lucky. I just loved my childhood. I just thought it was great. I wish every kid could get to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, I had a wonderful relationship, and to be able to see older couples at the store or at the park, and they're holding hands and they're walking along, it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost a damn thing to hold hands and walk along, or put your arm around them and tell them you love them and how pretty they are, or how you like their laugh, or whatever it is. Compliment each other. It costs nothing. It just takes a little bit of your time and a little bit of effort. And if more people could do that every day when you first get together, and keep doing that, and really respect each other and listen to what each other has to say, I just think so many people's relationships would last a long time. Because what made you fall in love in the first place? If you're just marrying somebody or being with that person just because they got big boobs, or you like him because he's got broad shoulders, you're not going to have a long relationship. You got to have something, just like Bernadette Peters and Steve Martin did in this movie. They looked at each other deep. They had a deeper connection, because even after they lost millions and millions of dollars, she didn't care. They wanted to be together, and because they loved each other, they loved being with each other. A love that you can't purchase is, very, very rare, I think. But I do see it, because you can't help but not see it if you're looking around. Every time you go to a restaurant or the mall or other functions, you'll see people together like that. And you're like, oh, one day I want to be that way. I want to hope I'm like that when I'm old, see them walking side by side with their canes, I don't know. I don't know what I would be like, but I'd be that little old lady at the nursing home that'd be, walking down the hallway with my man holding hands or whatever. I think I could be that one day when I'm old. That will happen. But it's just it's nice to see, like the family, his family that he was writing letters to. They were all happy, and they didn't have hardly anything. And I think that's part of the problem with America, is that we have so much shit. You got a cell phone, TV, music, cars, motorcycles, bicycles, all these toys, and a job and everything. So we're so busy doing other stuff. We're not looking at each other anymore. We're not talking to people. We're not spending time with actual humans. You know what I mean?
We're not.
and we're missing out on so many great things that you could do. Like my mom would sit down with us and she taught me how to crochet. She taught me how to use a sewing machine. I mean, I did a lot. I learned a lot of stuff, how to cut my own patterns, make my own patterns from old shirts or whatever, pants, a skirt, things like that. And I was a tomboy. I knew how to shoot squirrels and clean the squirrel and clean the fish. But my mom made sure that I knew how to set a table and, do things at home too. We had to have chores. We did all these things. And I think little things like that, a family that does stuff together like that, I think that's important too. Where you sit down and have dinner together every night and tell each other what you did during the day. Things like that, I just don't hear people do it. Like I said, family traditions are going out the window. Nobody seems to have them anymore or care that we don't have them, which is sad.
That's typically how that works. I mean,
but then you have tradition stuff like that with your parents? Didn't you have?
Yeah, we have plenty of traditions. It's just that, when you move states away, you don't get those anymore. And so you have to, like, whenever you see each other for 3 or 5 days, like, you have to slam 2 weeks worth of family time into 3 days or 5 days. And it's exhausting because you're like, I'm having a great time with you. I know I'm not going to be able to do this for a long time, but I'm going to sleep really well when I get back home. It's nothing against your parents, but it's like, I moved away so I could have, things that I like a job.
And, that's what we all do, though. We all have to grow up and leave. But what I'm talking about when you're at home and you're growing up and you had some type of tradition.
Like the tradition I'm thinking of the most is probably like Sunday morning, we go to church. Mm-hmm. I don't like going to some churches because they absolutely are not focusing on like retaining a young group of kids. They don't teach, I think, at the children's level. They try to teach at a different level, or they try to teach below the kids the reading level because they are scared they're going to lose the kids. But for me, the thing was, for tradition, we go to church. And it wasn't until we discovered this one church on the other side of our small town, because the other church was like catty corner from my house growing up. So if there was anything going on, the pastor saw it outside. Okay. So I would basically be under watch when I was outside in the front yard from the pastor's family and the other families around. So I always did go in the backyard and do stuff because it had bushes and it had things that would provide visual cover. I don't have to worry about people seeing me. If me and my dog want to run around and I want to pee on a big pine tree, I can go pee on a big pine tree back there. I couldn't pee in the front yard. I'm a little upset about that. Still a little upset about people getting butthurt about things like you need to talk to your son about public urination. I'm sorry. I'm a guy. Oh, wait. Nobody's getting offended at this bush over here in the front of the house. You can't see my pee-pee. I'm just, the way I'm standing, what I'm doing, because I'm assuming the stance of a guy pumping gas. Same fucking stance is what you use for urination. And so I didn't like that church too well. I didn't like the strict bullshit of it. They used to complain about long hair. And my Uncle David and I hit him with the same thing at different times when we were both growing up. Like, that guy on the wall has long hair. What's wrong with my long hair? Well, you have to have either a high and tight, or it's just you're running a crappy cult. And there's a reason why nobody stays. And you watch that church wither itself apart. And like even my grandparents on my mom's side were like, we're done. We're going to a different church. Because they just weren't teaching it right. They just completely fell apart. And when the pastor has to go get a job at Lowe's to reimburse, like a big white church like that, a big church like that has immaculate facade of stonework and brickwork and white siding on the side of it, should have never lost money, but they did. And so we discovered another church across town. We went to that, and I love that church because it was a little bit more progressive. They had some different ideas, but they still taught from King James Bible for the most part, although other people were getting in the church trying to teach from a New Life version of the Bible, which I absolutely hated because it was modernized. don't give me modernization when you give me the Bible. Don't. It'll piss me off. So I really did like that. And I really do miss some of those traditions. There were some places that we went in a search for religion and teaching of spiritual stuff that I really enjoyed. And there were other places that I just felt I'm a waste here. I'm absolutely not desired by the congregation to be here because I'm a kid. And the other kids here are kind of miserable too. But we're going to put up with it for 2 hours because after this we get to go do something. Maybe it's KFC, maybe it's McDonald's Playland,
Yeah,
maybe it's
I
something
think
fun.
every kid goes through that.
Kid feels that, you know. But that was traditions that I remember pretty well. And then the last tradition my family had was the Christmas Eve tradition was we'd go see grandparents on Christmas Eve. And then on Christmas Day, we'd stay home. Maybe grandparents come over, but we would go see the grandparents on Christmas Eve. Well, now we're past the point where those people are alive any further. So it just like me going home to Latham for Christmas holidays, 2/3 of the experience I'd want to have, I can't have. So I'm not going to worry about it. But for traditions, that's something that I would want. And this movie kind of goes and it shows you what a good, healthy family does for traditions. And the tradition you see is mainly the birthday celebration for young Navin. And he was 34 in this movie, playing an 18-year-old man. And it was fine. I didn't give a shit because he acted like he was very young and naive. And it's a comedy. I'm not supposed to take it very seriously.
Yeah.
It's the way I wanted a movie to be for a comedy. And I never had to think critically about it before until we analyzed it today. But this movie does a really good job. By the way, chat, if you're still here, if you haven't fled for happier places, do me a big favor. Put your channel, put your movie review score in the chat. I want to hear it. I want to have Janet read it off.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to jump in real quick and say was the relationship that they had and how they tried to boost each other and get each other active and involved in things. Okay, like when he came home and the guy's about to leave. And he goes, you're trying something new? And she said, yeah, I just took a lesson. And he goes, for what? And she goes, knife throwing. And he's all excited. He said, oh, you're going to try it on me. And he's looking at the body, you know, the things, that the knife sticking out. And one's right in the middle of the chest, you know, and right near that, you know, the top by the neck and all that stuff. So he's like pulling him out and he's having to pry him out. So she threw him pretty hard. And then he's standing there and he gets a balloon and she said, put the balloon in your mouth. And then she's holding that knife and she's all sexy, you know, in that little dainty outfit or whatever she's got on. Her hair.
Her midriff looked awful tasty. I'm just going to say.
She was smoking hot. Okay. But the thing is that she chucks that knife and it hits and you can hear it go ding, ding, you know, sticking to the wood. And it's right on his crotch. And he's like, wow, that was really good. She goes, I can't do anything. She gets all emotional, you know. But I just thought that scene was so cute and adorable because he was so hard working at trying to make her feel like she was wonderful at it, you know, that you just got to work at it. And he was, you know, just trying to show her he loved her so much that he was, you know, lying to her, lying his ass off basically, but he was willing to stand there and let her throw giant knives at him. I just thought the whole scene was just so funny because real people in love do stupid shit like that. You know what I mean? We're willing to go bungee jumping, jet skiing, jump off the side of a mountain into the water, you know, all this stuff to impress the girl that you like or the guy that you like. You know, you're willing to do dumb shit. And I just thought that was just so funny. That whole scene was adorable. You know, and that's what I'm saying about young love and your first love or your, you know, the person a lot of people, they say, oh, it's your first love. But you know what? A lot of people fall in love in high school and they stay married their whole life. So it is possible to do that if, you know, you're really in love and you work at your relationship. But it takes two, like I say all the time, it takes two people. You both have to work at it. You both have to take and give and take. to make it last. And I've talked to so many older couples that have been around a while, and they say, yeah, I went through times where I couldn't stand him. I couldn't even stand to be in the same room with him. And then other times I'd look at him and say, oh, I miss him so much. I just want to give him a big old kiss. But see, it's a ebb and flow with everything, just like life, like your job or anything else that you're involved in. But, you know, when you have two people that do love each other and you have kids now or whatever, it takes effort. You know, you got to work at it. If you want to have something to last, you have to put effort into it. And that's what I thought was so cute, because the way that they talk to each other, the way they encourage each other, even when they were arguing, like when he was writing all the checks for $1.09, you know, just all those little things, that she was still supportive of it. And he's like, what are you doing wearing that dress? You know, and he instantly got mad because she showed him they really are broke. They had no money.
Yeah.
You know, it was a hard realization for both of their relationships. And when he got upset and he left with his pants around his ankles and he was walking down the street, she had told him, you know, called his family apparently when they weren't broke, and they went to find him, take him home. So, you know, it just shows you that, you know, if you have a family who loves you and you love your family, that no matter how bad it gets, that you have nothing or you think you have nothing, you still have each other.
Yeah,
you don't have to have any money to have love.
You'll be better off if you have a family that, you know, understands how you are and how you want to be. You know, you're better off if you have good communication. If you took part in the healthy communication, the healthy relationship between you and your mom and dad, and you and your family, your siblings.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any roots, if you don't have that, like, you got to figure out a way, kind of on your own. Sorry, kids, for you to
Yeah.
make it. And lucky for him, you know, it wasn't up to Navin to think of all these things, because Navin would have been on the street, you know, in the end credits. Instead, he had a family that loved him, and they came to the rescue once she got a hold of him. And it's just a heartwarming, funny damn movie. Anybody in the chat want to give this movie a rating? I've got one in here from Papa Cotton. Papa Cotton says
he put something in there. I didn't see it.
Rare, perfect movies.
Oh yeah.
And that right there, that's absolutely fine. I mean, it's very rare to have a movie that you can watch at 9, at the age of 12, at the age of 21, at the age of 34, at the age of 48 and older, and get something new and still laugh your ass off. This movie provides that. And
that's what I was going to give it. I'm going to give it at least probably just under a 9. I mean, it's just really close to that. Just from little things that, you know, like what you said, that it's sad that they had to hack it up, you know, take certain things out of it because they don't want to supposedly upset somebody's feelings or whatever. It's sad to take something that's a work of art. Because see, when a person paints something or a sculptor makes something like what you're doing right now, okay, the one thing that you're working on, when you're finished with it, it's a one of a kind. Because no matter how many times you paint something, the brush strokes are always going to be different.
Yep.
There's always going to be subtle differences in everything that you make. I don't care how many shirts you sew or quilts you make. They're not exactly the same. They're not a clone. They are an individual thing that you made. So, and I wish everybody could look at things that way. You know, like when every movie's made, whether it's a bomb or whether it was successful or whatever it was, it's art, basically a form of art. Okay. It's a story that comes to life that you enjoy by sitting back and just watching it. But a lot of people went to work to make it. Thousands of people were involved in making this movie. And then to know that later on they go back and take things out of it and change it, because they don't want people to see this anymore, or whatever it is they take out of it. So just like going back and finding books and burning them or tearing pages out of them, things like that, it's the same thing. You know, you're changing it. You're taking things away because one side doesn't agree with it anymore. So that's why it's really hard to know the true history of anything. unless it's carved in stone, and we had that giant stone mounted on the wall, with whatever was written on it from whatever tribe might have been there, or ancient man or had put something on the wall. The only way we could see it is by visualizing exactly what they did and then try to interpret what they were trying to say. But when someone comes along and paints over it, or takes like they did with some of the darn it, the pyramids, they went in and they tore stuff up, and they gouged holes in the writing and the beautiful paintings that they made because they didn't like whatever pharaoh it was or whatever. It's sad because it destroys history. And when you don't have history to look at, you don't realize the mistakes that you made, and you end up making the same mistakes again. So I don't agree with people destroying any art or anything. If you don't want to see it, take it down and put it somewhere else. But don't destroy it. Don't tear it up, and don't tear all the pages out of the books and things like that, or burn them, because the future might really need them. You just don't know. At this moment, you don't realize the importance of it. So, I see it that way. I see lots of things that way, just like people.
Yeah, I'm gonna break your tradition, and I'm gonna give this movie an 85 out of 100, because this movie is damn near a perfect comedy. Most comedies I don't rate super high. Like you've seen me savage movies that are loved by other people, like Jim Carrey's entire fucking IMDb is about two movies I really like, but I really love this movie. Steve Martin remains one of my favorite guys from the 80s for comedy. All of Me was a Betamax rip I pulled off of CBS, and I watched All of Me with Lily Tomlin in it probably in excess of 30 times growing up. The Man with Two Brains, I don't know if that was ever put in theaters or not, but I think it was a made-for-TV movie, and it was funny as shit. And I've watched that movie probably double the amount of times of All of Me. And I think that movie's funnier, actually, and we'll have to watch that soon. I
haven't seen it yet, so
it's got Kathleen Turner, so it should turn into anyway. Kathleen, like, you want to watch movies with Henry Cavill? I'm okay with watching movies from Kathleen Turner from the 1970s to 80s and 90s.
Okay, sounds good to me.
That's just,
I like good movies. I even like some bad movies. I'm not really picky. I mean, I can sit and watch a lot of movies. There's just a few that I'm like, oh, I don't want to really watch that one again, or I definitely don't want to watch that one. Like that night that you took me to that website and had all those really bad D-rated movies, that you were saying,
you don't want to watch the Midnight Meat Train Part 3.
Now that the one scene in the train fight, I would watch that again, but the whole movie, no, I wouldn't.
It is the one time where Brooke Shields actually brought out her chops as an actress.
She was really good in that movie. I was so impressed with a lot of parts of it.
She is an amazing actress. If she could do that every time, she would actually get paid well in Hollywood, not just be pretty.
Well, I think she got paid pretty good, honestly. No, she didn't?
I don't know if she got paid really good or not, but I'm just saying, like, if she could pull out those acting chops like she did in the movie Midnight Meat Train, like, she would never be without a job. She would always have a way to pay off a new car or house. She could have been an easy, in her 40s and into her 50s, she could have been an easy $10 million earner. Not that I'm criticizing her accounting or whatever, but I mean, she just doesn't seem like the type of woman. She's coasting right now.
Yeah.
And she's coasted since the mid 2000s. There was a couple shows I think she was on. Like,
I just remember her in what was it, the Blue Lagoon or something like that.
I remember her in Suddenly Seeking Susan.
She was a kid.
Yeah, she was a child in that movie.
No. Yeah, I don't really remember her much after that. I mean, it was like she dropped out of movies or something. So what I remember.
I'd be more than happy to watch, like, hold on, let me pull up the actress that I would. Blob Night. No, weird sign. You could pull up the acting resume of another 80s horror queen. No, not you. No, not you. No, not you. Not really.
What was the other woman's name from all the Freddy movies? What was her name?
I was thinking Suzanne Snyder, who was in Weird Science as one of the cute girls, but she's in one of my favorite movies of all time, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. She's also the nurse in the soap opera in Remo Williams. She's in Return of the Living Dead Part 2.
Weird Science. Someone just put that in there.
Yeah, she's a great but little lesser known actress, and I just enjoy that. This movie is an 85 for me. This is a film you watch with your kids, with your relatives. This is a movie you can watch in mixed company. Nobody will give a shit. Everybody will be happy you're watching The Jerk in public area, because there's not a part of this movie where you're not laughing your ass off. You're going, holy shit, they went there with this, and you're laughing your ass off because it's so fucking good. And it's just a shame that more people, like, this is a time when you need to start looking at movies from the 60s to early 80s and start looking at why these movies were good, because we're hitting a spot in movie production that is absolute shit. And I'm just going to rip on a movie. I'm going to rip on a fantasy movie. It just came out on March 8th on Netflix called Damsel. And I watched that movie, and the last act of that film, the last 40 minutes of that movie, like the first hour of the film was pretty pathetic, but the last 40 minutes of it was like I was watching a cheap script imitation of somebody trying to spunk off the leftovers, the cut items from Willow, the series, and the Rings of Power. Like the absolute worst shit. And I watched this movie because it had a dragon in it. I'm like, well, at least the dragon special effects would be okay, right? Well, the dragon looked good, but one fucking problem with the dragon is they had no consistency in what the dragon's size is throughout the entire film. There's no consistency at all.
It was different sizes.
Different sizes throughout the entire movie, and then it broke some cardinal rules for D&Ders like you 5e fuckers out there. You guys should be writing letters to Netflix since this is your fucking money that goes to it. You need to be like a dragon that breathes a breath weapon on a dragon can't damage itself. And you're telling me that the dragon belched fire and the napalm fire, which was really fucking cool, by the way, because it was throwing out flaming pitch when it belched up, its neck would light up, and then it would just. But then they would throw out this flaming pitch, and it was so cool to see. But the final portion of the second act, the little heroine chick Elodie with a edgy little name, she dodges it and makes the dragon breathe on itself, and it hurts itself. And I'm like, this movie's fucking dumb. And that movie went from like a 2 to a fucking 0. Like I was watching that movie just for the
don't they have scales?
She had scales.
Why did she get burnt by her own flame?
The movie had so many fucking convenient outs in it, and just
that sounds lame. I guess I won't watch it.
Don't watch it. I watched it for you. You don't need to see it. I hate going into nerdrotic and critical drinker territory, but that is a miserable film. If you ever watch Damsel, just jack off with sandpaper instead. You'll get more out of it.
Oh my God, that sounds painful.
Get 20 grit sandpaper and massage your tennis elbow out for about 4 minutes and just look at your bloody little stump. You've achieved better than what the movie producers of Damsel did, because that movie absolutely is ass. I wouldn't wish anybody to, if that was an alcohol, it would be poison, because that is like some serious garbage fucking movie. And I want you guys to not see it. Like, I watched it. I watched it on the first night.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, it's got some money in it. Maybe it's good. I didn't get a good feeling from the trailer, but sure enough, like, it's basically reliving the fucking war.
I saw a trailer for that on X.
Like, where the fuck did they get the black stepmother from? Because they're in the North, and most societies, even in fantasy worlds and societies like Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk, you're going to have the people with a darker melanin by the equator. And these
I know, but
people are.
was she a nursemaid?
She was a son
A milkmaid?
a daughter. She should have. She was a daughter of a rope maker, and
Uh-huh.
you find that out when she tries to chat up with Robin, Sean Penn's ex-wife, the one that left him when he punched
Robin
somebody.
White, right?
That's
Yeah.
right. Robin Wright tells her, "Weren't you the daughter of a rope maker? Know your station. I don't need a bigger family. Fuck you." And she says that to her in like for the first act. The first act comes to a close as this lady's heart breaks when she realizes that there's no love to be had with Robin Wright. And
Mhm.
the movie I'm talking about is Damsel. I watched that miserable shit movie on Sunday of last week, and I would wish you. I don't know who you are.
Where'd
Old
you
school.
watch it? On what channel?
I watched it on Netflix because my wife's got
On
an account.
Netflix.
We had a
Okay.
spare phone, and I'm like, let me see this. And I was making my food for work, and I went to work. I went to my first night at my new job, like kind of pissed watching that movie, and I'm like, I should have just kept watching Rings of Power and like jacked off with some 20 grit because that was a miserable fucking movie.
Was it better or worse than the Dungeons and Dragons movie that I was telling you to go see with the fat dragon?
Okay, the Dungeons and Dragons movie is about a 60% or a 58 for me. Damsel's a 31.
Okay, so it was better than that one.
Yeah,
The dragon in it was even better, I bet.
the
The fat
I
dragon
guess I have
was better than the crappy dragon.
I have the stuffed animal version of the fat dragon. Okay.
Yeah, I saw it on your shelf.
Yeah, and I
I
got
love
that
that
dragon.
dragon. I thought it was so cute, that movie. I love that movie though. So
Yeah. The D&D movie is leagues better than Damsel, and the D&D movie for me is like barely acceptable. It's enjoyable watching. You watch it with your friends, but don't look at all the technical fuck ups. Like they fuck up on the CGI quite a bit. Like you'll see things that they edit out in the scenery, and then the next shot they didn't edit that out, and the house looks different. It's just miserable. Like they you can tell Wizards of the Coast touched it because you can smell the DEI and the fucking Sweet Baby ink bullshit all over it. The Sweet Baby spunk that's all written, all rubbed on all the script. You know, can't make Chris Pine look like a manly man, and
yeah,
it's just absolutely fucking miserable. But
I was gonna watch it. You know why? Because of the actress that was supposed to be the dragon. I like her.
I
can't
love
remember her name.
I what's her name?
I like that actress.
Aurora Agladashlu.
I think that's her name. She's from India or somewhere.
From Iran. Sure,
Iran, yeah.
Correct.
She's a good actress.
Tabar. That's her name according to Bing.
Yeah.
And she's a great actress. I like her. I loved her in The Expanse. She's one of the bright parts of The Expanse.
I love that show.
Then she's in Star Trek Beyond, and she plays a good character in that. The only thing bad about her is that she sounds like she eats Lucky Strikes. Like I don't. You're supposed to smoke those, miss, but she fucking snarfs them.
Well, some men think that kind of voice is really sexy, and they talk deep like that or whatever. I can do it, but
Homer Simpson. I'm going to grab you by your penis and put it
the ants. Homer Simpson's wife's sisters.
Yes,
they have that voice. Yeah,
they have that voice, and that's not sexy. Have you ever watched Archer, Janet?
I've watched a couple episodes. Yes.
Do you remember the Jackie O character, Dr. Girlfriend?
No. Sorry, I didn't see that episode.
Dr. Girlfriend talks like this. She's got a little Jackie Onassis body, but she sounds like exactly this.
Like she smokes a pack of cigarettes a day.
Eats the cigarettes.
Yeah.
Every day. And it's funny, but like it frightens me on a level that I don't need to recognize.
I still like her though. I think she's a really good actress. I really,
great
really
actress.
Wasn't she in Westworld too? Was she in Westworld?
I didn't watch Westworld because of Gary's recommendation.
I loved Westworld. The first season of Westworld was great. It was the second season when it went downhill, went in the toilet. But the first season was great. I loved it. I thought it was really good.
A lot of women could just benefit by making their voices a little raspy, but not sounding like they had gargled with shards of glass and rusty nails like I did. Now I'm going to sing for you Ave
My
Maria.
voice is pretty deep. I got a pretty deep voice for a girl.
Yeah, but your voice causes a chemical reaction in like 90% of men, which oddly enough is my reaction. Like,
I can help how I speak. This is my voice, but can help it. But I think it's deep compared to other girls that had the real shrilly, really shrilly voices. So, we all have whatever our vocal cords give us.
I dig it. I really do dig it. I've always liked your voice. You've got a great voice. I'm not going to ask you to sing Happy Birthday.
Yeah, I can't sing. I suck at singing.
I'll have you do other things, but like there is a movie in the future. We come back around to October, we may have to do double features because we've got to watch this.
Yeah, I want to see The Blob.
The 1988 version of The Blob is so good. And it's got one of my favorite actresses, Shawnee Smith. She's a little cutie.
Well, Papa Cotton says he's excited about us doing the
Amazon Women from Mars.
On the moon. Yes. I thought it was on the moon.
Same thing. I can. Yeah, we're gonna watch that, and that actually is coming up. Let me see here. What is our schedule? Next week, no matter what, we're doing the movie Spaceballs.
Spaceballs, okay.
A Mel Brooks classic.
Okay.
And then the week of April 1st, we're doing Used Cars. We don't have an April.
Used Cars. Who's in that one? That sounds familiar, but I don't think
Russell.
Kurt Russell?
Yep.
I definitely haven't seen it. I haven't seen Spaceballs or Used Cars.
Kurt Russell be funny since the Disney films.
So I haven't seen it.
Yeah, Kurt Russell gets to play a great car salesman, and that is a good movie. I'm looking forward to it.
But I want to tell everybody in the chat that if you would like to watch the movie with us, we will put out. You just send me a DM on X or on my send me a Discord message, and I'll send you a link, and you can come to Discord and watch the movie with us before we talk about it afterward. So our schedules change. We're not doing it Monday nights anymore. We have to do it on the weekend when Bruce isn't working. So
if I'm able to go back to Mondays for the show, I'm going to.
Yeah, but as of right now, we're not. He's got, his job is more important than us goofing around on the internet. But if you'd like to watch it with us, it's a lot of fun to go to Discord. It's quiet. I'm sure people talking behind you, at the movie theater, and we sit and watch the movie and laugh and enjoy it or whatever. And then we will do the review afterward.
You have me and Chimerian asking, where the fuck did he buy that Uzi from? I want an Uzi.
I know it was.
He got a sniper rifle at first, then he yanks out.
He was really good at hiding himself in those bushes and stuff too. I thought.
Man, he was very skilled. I don't know what happened to him between this and Blade Runner, but he kind of went downhill in the 3 years you see him.
Oh yeah. But yeah, but we do that, and it's fun. It's fun to get to watch the movie and and experience it again, especially if it's something we saw a long, long time ago. But the next two movies we're going to watch, I haven't even seen yet, so I'm excited getting to watch two movies I have never seen.
So, in short, we recommend, complete with everybody else in the movie that we're talking in the chat. We're talking about. We want you guys, if you've not seen Used Cars, you can see Used Cars. Well, Bruce, I don't have a streaming service. Well, shit. If you don't mind seeing a foreign language pop up, I'm not adverse to giving you guys the link for a certain server to where you can go and check this out. And I want you to check this out because this is a great film. And if you got a kid that likes,
we're not watching it next week, though, are we?
What?
We're watching Spaceballs next week, not Used Cars.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're watching Spaceballs next week. This is for the movie we watched today. Okay. And that'll take you to an Russian server. Very nice place. Treat them nicely.
Yeah, that movie is the one we just talked about. The Jerk. Yeah.
And you want to see The Jerk, stay away from modern cinema unless you see something that's absolutely amazing. There's not a whole lot of that going on right now. I think Cabrini might be the only thing in theaters that'll be worth a watch this year.
Well, I heard a lot of people going on and on about Oppenheimer, that it was really good.
There's
I hadn't
some
seen it yet.
communism. There's some communist teaching in that movie that I just
I haven't seen it, so I can't talk about it because I don't really know what happens in it or anything. I haven't seen if it was good or not. I
have
like
a
some of
friend
the
that
actors
showed me
though.
the scene. I've seen the scenes that are in question, and it
Mhm.
just it's not as bad as the communism in Christmas with the Cranks, but
Mhm.
it's a definite undercurrent. Like Oppenheimer was not exactly a liberty and freedom for everybody guy, but he
I don't think.
that's all I really should have to say about it. But I mean, it's better than Christmas with the Cranks. So to say that, because if you watch Christmas with the Cranks, there's a absolute like communist undertone of that film that if you watch it and you're looking for political speech, like you're going to be like shoving the kids in the bomb shelter by the time the movie's over. It's just it's loaded with fucking Stalinism. It really
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
So
That other movie we watched had a bomb shelter in it.
yeah,
Blast
yes,
from the
it did.
Past.
Blast from the Past. And you know what? I got to thank people in the chat for sharing that, because me and Janet right now, we kind of do this thing for funsies. We're not doing this for the mathematical financial gains we're going to have.
Yeah, I'm
But
not monetized or anything yet, so we're just doing this. We've been doing it a little over a year now, and I just love doing it. It's fun, it's relaxing, and we get to meet a lot of new people. We've gained a really good group of young people that like to come and watch a movie with us, and also hang out with us in the chat. So that's good. That's fun.
This Blast from the Past movie we did has 7,400 views.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
For this crappy little channel that I have and Janet's reach on Twix, we have really overcame a lot. And I got to say thank you to the guys that are involved with us. Just, if you share this out, I appreciate you. I'd like to buy you a beer. If we see each other, if we meet up, it's going to be at a HorrorCon in October. I wanted to go up north to a convention up in Minnesota.
Sci-fi con.
It's a sci-fi con. Going to have Pete Weller and Gina Carano here in San Antonio in October. We're going to go see that, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I think if you guys are there, fuck yeah, we'll have to do something. Maybe hit up Max and Louie's or someplace that'll not give you like dysentery or something. You have to watch it. You have to watch it.
We're going to try to make it into a meet and greet type thing, like some of the channels do. Even though we're not big or anything, but we're going to
actually pair up with some other locals here that are of the same like agenda mindset, and we should probably see like, hey, where are you going to be at? Because we'll pull our limited people that will be in the area. We could all get together and do that and just hang out for a little bit, do a meet and greet, grab some appetizers, maybe a drink or two. If it's a Sunday, unless I'm on an afternoon shift, which I'm begging my boss, give me that afternoon shift we talked about. That would be preferred.
Isn't that close to you? Don't you live near there?
About 9 miles away.
Oh, see, you're lucky. I got a long drive.
Yeah, you will have a drive, and I'm sorry about that, but we're gonna be there, and we're gonna go enjoy that, because that's just the one thing I want to do this year. Like family medical issues aside, like I don't have any going on right now. Hopefully they stay that way, unless like somebody decides to meet Grimm until then. But that's what we want to do. We want to go see this sci-fi convention, get a hug from Gina Carano, shake Peter Weller's hand for being in one of the best movies in 1987. But the other movie that beats RoboCop of 87 is going to be Predator. Sorry, guys. But
yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Other than that, Janet, what do you have planned for this week?
Not much. I'm just going to be planning on the shit show, unless somebody invites me to something. I think I got invited to something, but I don't remember what it was. I'll have to go through all my DMs and see if I can figure it out.
That's the problem when you're a lady as pretty as Janet. You have a lot
Well,
of
it's
needs.
just that I'm on so many things. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on, Discord, X, Rumble, LinkedIn. I'm getting messages in all of them, and I'm trying to keep up, with everything. And it's just, it's a lot. And I have a home, and I got chickens, and so it's tough. But I'm doing the best I can.
The chickens are more important than randos from India trying to hit on you. I'm sorry. I'm
They
not
are.
trying to hit on you Indian types. I hit on everybody, but
Yeah,
I
my
just
chickens give me breakfast, so that too. They got to be fed and taken care of.
you are so lucky. I can't wait
So
to have a yard and have chickens and figure out how I'm going to protect them from the damn hawks nearby.
you just keep them in a coop in a run. If you have backyard chickens, you don't have to let them free range. Just have 6 little hens, and you have it made.
Yeah, I read a thing from 1958. They had a pamphlet, and they said for 5 chickens, you should be able to stay enough eggs to where 2 adults can live off those eggs.
Uh-huh.
Like everything else they got going on. If you add a rooster and you start having like little chicks, you're gonna have it made. But if nothing else, have 5 chickens per 2 adults, and that should
Yeah.
keep you pretty well.
You
And
just feed them scraps, and I cut my grass and I rake it up and I put it in my run with my chickens when I get them locked up. So they love grass.
I would have never thought they'd eat grass, but okay, that's easy enough. I live in San
Yeah,
Antonio. So parts of that parts of the city does not have grass. You have sand, but that's we can still fix that because I can always develop a worm bed and a cricket bed.
Really worms are easy to raise. You can do that in a couple of buckets. So
everyone, for the 113 that are watching us on the various networks that you guys are here, if you can, make sure you subscribe to Janet from Another Planet. Make sure you promote her, get her boosted up. I want to see her get more successful elsewhere than on YouTube. No offense to YouTube, but if you're going to keep having the same stringent policies of stupidity and promote things that are anti-liberty and anti-freedom of speech and anti-weapon, anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment, I don't want you to make much money. I'm pretty okay with saying that, and I pay you $13 a month for no fucking commercials. But I don't like it whenever you try to smack down people for having pro-American values, and pro-America meaning pro Joe McCarthy American values, pro Ike values. I will get political on this. I like America as it should be. We're kind of standoffish. We have this nice big ocean between us and everywhere else. I'd like to keep it like that. I don't need everybody coming in through the northern border or the California border or definitely the Texas border. I need you guys to make your own countries great. Why couldn't you fix your own fucking countries instead of coming here and sucking on the tits here?
Yep.
Thank you, everybody, for putting up with my rambling. And Janet, I will let you escort us out today.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate everyone who hung out and listened to what we had to say about the movie The Jerk. And if you haven't seen it, it's really funny. Watch the trailer. It's from 1979? Yeah, it's an old movie, but it's got a lot of laughs in it. It's a young romantic comedy, basically, and it's adorable. I still think it's good, and I still think it stands up to the test of time. So I think it's good entertainment.
I completely agree with you. Thank you, Janet.
Thank you.